Hoodie guy coming back here with another one. Well, we're going to be just talking about a 2026 outlook. I don't have a crystal ball. I am bullish on this year coming up, but I don't have negative outcomes at 0% chance. But overall, I'm bullish. We'll be taking a look at that, see what some other people might chime in on with this live stream. Uh, it's interesting. Sorry about that. You look at the night token, Cardano sidechain or whatever. Um, you can see it's on Bybit and it's had $2.5 billion. I guess there's a lot of wash trading or whatever. It's had $4 billion of trading in the last day. Caspa was at 18 million, down 36%. We know we're just a few days away from the HTX listing. You can see Bybit for Caspa is $2.1 million. So, uh, you know, the price is down pretty low, and uh, I think it's going to be good. Now, if the macroeconomic conditions in Bitcoin don't do very well next year, then it's probably not going to be that good for Caspa. But I do think that we'll talk about a few of the reasons, but we're just a few days away from this listing on HTX. Is that going to do some crazy thing to the price? Probably not, but it could make it go up. Sometimes after these listings, you can even see it go down. But that's another big exchange. That's another big notch in the belt. Now, we'll start getting into some of the reasons why I think that 2026 will be good. You can go and see a lot of people that are bearish, a lot of, below the 50-week moving average. There's lots of things in the charts that signal. At the same time, the RSI, I guess, is super low with Bitcoin. But the odds of who's going to be the next Fed chair change because Trump can say one thing that all of a sudden rockets someone to the top of the list. But the front runner right now is Kevin Hassett, and once he becomes, or whoever it is, becomes the official person that Trump's going to nominate, and I think they still got to get nominated by Congress, that person in some ways becomes more important than Jerome Powell because everyone knows that Jerome Powell's out the door. He's got until May. What's he got? 5 months left. So if Jerome Powell is being hawkish and, doesn't look like he wants to cut rates, but he's out the door in May, and here you have Kevin Hassett, which I don't know, so far, out of just looking between Kevin Hassett and Kevin Warsh, I would like Kevin Hassett. Coinbase advisor, at one point he had $1 to $5 million in Coinbase stock. I mean, come on. He's a pro growth guy, wants the rates lower. Kevin Warsh was talking about favorability in the CBDCs. I don't think Kevin Warsh should be anti-crypto, but I don't think he's kind of as crypto friendly as Kevin Hassett. So that would be that's my favorite choice on the list. I don't know as much about Rick Ryder or Christopher Waller, but having at the middle of the year. Yep. Hey, Davey, thanks for tuning in. So you have right now the guy that's in the lead is a pro growth guy, lower interest rates. We'll probably see some inflation. Even the Kevin Hassett eventually might have to cool off on lowering rates. But, that a Coinbase advisor, I mean, that's like a dream come true. So that is one of the top reasons I'm bullish, and that he won't come into May. But if he gets nominated in January, or if Trump says that's who he's going to nominate in January, then every word out of Kevin Hassett's mouth, it could move markets at that point. Maybe not quite as much as the current Fed chair. Now, the poly market has got not a ton of betting volume, but has the most likely outcome, I guess, is 22% at 3 rate cuts. So it's basically pricing in 2 or 3 rate cuts. And they're saying that's more likely there's going to be 4 rate cuts than 1 rate cut. So there's going to be some rate cuts. Here's just a little list. Fed chair, admins, pump economy. So we have the midterms. Now, that doesn't mean that the current administration has a free, blank pass to do whatever they want, because administrations want to win the midterms every time, and they don't always do that. But the current administration you think would want to try to do what they can to make sure the economy is going good, because you have lots of liberal people that are going to vote liberal, and you have a lot of conservative people that are going to vote conservative, Republican. Uh, there's some people in the middle that they basically, it seems like if the economy is going good, they'll vote who's in power, and if the economy is going bad, they'll vote the other party. For me, I know some people think that because I went to Mar-a-Lago to that event that maybe I'm really a big Trump guy, but I'm pretty neutral. I like people like that Clear Value Tax guy. It's kind of hard to read. I mean, he's got guns and silver, and he's saying that okay, you're paying less taxes under Trump because he's an accountant, but then he's also calling out Trump on his bullshit with like say, oh yeah, well, I don't think you're going to be able to pay the debt down, give everyone all these stimuluses when there's only 300 billion coming in in the tariffs. Now, something else we can talk about too, which is a side note, is that my business was affected by the tariffs, and now according to Polymart, there's a 72% chance that the Supreme Court is going to knock down some of the Trump tariffs. Not all of them. Every tariff is like there. It's not just a blanket thing. Everyone's got a different reason, and there's steel tariffs, and there's fentanyl related tariffs and stuff like this. So if they do that, my freight forwarder from Chicago is already saying like, "Hey, let's start getting ready." We're starting to anticipate the Supreme Court's going to rule that way. There's a way to protest, and you can get some of your money back on the tariffs you paid. So we brought in 2 containers from China this year. So who knows? We might be able to get 20, 30 grand back. Also, we had to raise our product to one of our items. The sales are down. So if we did get a $2,000 check, it's not kind of pales in comparison to the $50,000 or $60,000 we lost. But sorry, that was just kind of a side note there on my business and the tariffs. But I guess that kind of ties in because short term, Trump will be pissed if they knock off some of the tariffs. But overall, I think it would be good because just think about this year if these two things, if there wouldn't have been the big tariff battles, and yeah, maybe there's all this investments coming in or whatever, but overall, that really spooked the markets a lot several times. And then if Trump went and launched his meme coin 3 days before he became president, some people think that's pushing the Clarity Act back. That's another thing. If the Clarity Act gets passed some point in the first quarter, second quarter, that will be big. For as far as Caspa, there's a chance at more listings. It doesn't have to be all the big dogs, but seems like at some point everywhere will have Caspa listed. So between now and then, there'll be more listings like HTX. HTX is not Binance or Coinbase or Robinhood, but it's a big exchange doing a lot of a lot of volumes. VProgs, if something happens by the end of the year, depending on when some of that VProg stuff happens, if it does happen, and it happens kind of in coordination with some market narratives. If the proof of work narratives carry on, like Musk is talking about how energy a lot is currency, and even Jeff Bezos was saying, I can't remember exactly what Musk said on X because Bezos posted something, and then Musk said energy is currency or money. I can't remember, and then Jeff Bezos said, "Yeah, 100%." So you have rich guys like that. Egra, if they're L2, what they're doing, maybe that's not until the end of the year. So I see some big stuff on the horizon there. Hash rate's kind of moving north a little bit, but still hanging pretty strong there. And when you look at if the proof of work narratives, now obviously the big dog is Bitcoin, but when you look here, there's, Zcash and Monero or privacy coins, and after what happened with the reorg on Monero, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin are kind of dinosaurs have been around. Dogecoin still kind of hanging in there, but it's, uh, it's unlimited supply. Same thing with Monero, I guess. So when you look here, Kaspa's 8 was number 2, a couple years ago. But Ethereum Classic, I don't see anyone ever talking about Ethereum Classic. But like, I don't know, at least on X, I never see anyone talking about Ethereum Classic. So if proof of work narratives come on with Caspa Speed, now I know that I know that Jonathan wants to get to 100 blocks per second, so I don't know the time frame on that. Seems like vprogs and stuff like that are kind of a little bit more in the forefront, the sequencers, the provers, all that different stuff. So I don't know. To me, it's a pretty exciting year. And here, I know that sometimes people think, oh, is Binance and like Coinbase not listing it because just UTXO model and it's its own blockchain. And but when you look back at where Caspa is, so what Mexi and Bing X and Bitmart and LBank and XT.com and Gate.io and BitGet have more resources and more technical teams than Binance and Coinbase and Robinhood. No, they don't. That's just anyone that says there's a technical uh, reason why that an exchange wouldn't list it um, is complete bullshit. Now, I could see an exchange saying, "Hey, wow, okay, Caspa's at 1 block per second, and they're getting ready for the crescendo hard fork at 10 blocks per second. That's really close. Let's just wait until they're done with that." But all these other people had it listed before that and after that. So I mean, in my mind, I know that there's a lot more technical things, but you don't have to know that all these smaller exchanges with less resources listed it. So, and when you look at Binance, you go to the mining pool, which used to be when Binance first launched their mining pool and they had low fees, no fees, or whatever it was. They used to be up here, kind of more in like the top 7 or whatever. And you can see that the Binance pool is 3.3 petahashes, so still way down there, but still kind of chugging along. You can see via BTC is number 1 hump pool, and F2 pool, K1 pool, Kaspa.org. But Binance is able to mine it. They listed the futures a long time ago. And so it's just gonna. All right, Georgie, Caspa has been somewhat of a failure. I've sold around 25% of my holdings to tax harvest those losses. That's what some people are doing, is selling, at the end of the year to harvest those tax losses. For me, I'm not, because if say next year in May it does something, or June or July or August, and I want to sell, then I want long-term capital gains. That's why I'm not doing the tax harvesting to get losses. I didn't really do much gains or anything this year. So, and my business is, going to have a loss this year because we bought a lot of product and had to spend some money, and our sales went down. But, you know, has Caspa been a failure on some levels? Maybe a little bit, but when you look at the overall altcoins, um, it's basically doing what altcoins did. And some people say it's just been a pile of crap for 3 years. That's not really the case. It's struggled for the last year and a half, not the last 3 years. So from at the end of 2022, when you look from from basically the end of 2022 to July, August of 2024, Caspa was kicking ass and taking names later. Now, from its peak back in the summer of 2024, it has been struggling a lot. So you can't deny that. I mean, this is in the charts. And it went from 21 on coin market cap to 50, up to 40 to 60, so it has lost a little bit of market dominance, but almost all altcoins have got destroyed for the most part. So it's kind of par for course if you're in altcoins. And when you look at Ethereum, I mean, Ethereum, barely maybe hit an all-time high, I think, there, because didn't it hit 5,000 for a second or something, or got really close? What's it? Yeah, it says 49.53 on August 24th, 2025 is when coin market cap. So it barely reached an all-time high, just barely, just edged up, and it's still only at 3,000. I mean, Bitcoin, is still well above its 2021 high, where Ethereum's way below its 2021 high. So pretty much all altcoins have done pretty bad. Tech is amazing, but if it doesn't get necessary adoption, funding will likely fail. Caspa is a long-term play for me. Yeah, the tech is amazing, and it does need adoption. And with its rapid admission schedule, which I know I have a hard time finding where the mission schedule is now because Cast.fy is down, but Cast does need adoption in the next few years. But Cast was a long-term play for me. Look, BTC and ETH, it takes time to build solid projects. Caspa's already is a winner in terms of tech. It's a matter of time. And I think Jonathan sees that. I don't know how much resources they have from being early miners to Caspa to help fund marketing or whatever. But we know that Caspa's got a rapid admission schedule and that it's going to need some adoption. So we can go over here to it looks like in the last 24 hours, you had 77,000 Caspa fees generated by KRC and 20 inscriptions. So looks like there's some inscriptions there. You can see that not a lot going on Cassier, KNS, and Casplex L2 basically generates no fees. Now, the hope is that if you have an L2 that's popular, that it's bringing demand for people having to bridge over and use the Caspa, hold Caspa. But in terms of base layer fees, it's pretty much doing nothing. You can see that the fees the fees did go up, a lot higher than it has last week, 44,000 fees. But you'll need to get that fee market up. But if the hash rate has went down quite a bit from its all-time high, but it's still fairly holding strong at the 500 petahashes. So that's still pretty good. And, potentially if this or, sometime in the next month or two is the bottom of this section of the market and we move up, then, there could be some more miners going online with the price going back up. So, whoops, I guess coin market cap. See if anyone else has chimed in. It's it's all about narratives and stories, and you can see that the privacy narrative and coins took off. Feels like the governments will really try to really keep those in line. And that's the thing about privacy coins is if you have no guardrails, it's probably hard to spend your Monero or Zcash right now. But it feels like that there's big money going into crypto. And sometimes you wonder because all these people and ETFs and everything and Michael Saylor keep buying, but there's still a little bit more net sellers and the price is going down. There's more paper Bitcoin derivatives. Now, I've seen people in Caspa criticize Bitcoin about all the paper stuff, but if Caspa ever truly succeeds, then it'll run up against the same thing where there'll be all sorts of paper Caspa ETF, and I mean, I guess we got a couple of Caspa Caspa treasuries. You have Mara's holding it, publicly traded company, BGen, publicly traded company. There's probably maybe someone we don't know of. I guess I don't know, is wallet number one HTX or market maker? We still don't know who wallet number one is. They've cooled off the last week or two in terms of their purchases. But for me, for 2026, maybe it's just because I feel better with Hopium, but in some ways you can argue that 2025 was a bear market. I mean, Bitcoin's down, 8% or something, 6 to 8%. Gold's up, 80, 90%, silver up 120%, S&P up 16%. Yeah, Bitcoin had new all-time highs, but it didn't have euphoria, and it's ending the year. It's usually Bitcoin had 3 years up, 1 year down. Now it's this year. Looks like it's going to close down. There's still a little bit of time. There can be some manipulation, but like the person earlier that was selling for the tax harvest, like Sor D was selling for the tax harvest. I think you're going to find more people selling off and for a tax harvest. I think you see that. So I could see, us kind of just going sideways for the rest of the year. And so Bitcoin ends with a red year, which would break the trend. So in some ways we're in uncharted territory, and that's where I'm at, and I'm prepared if my thesis is wrong, which this year didn't play out, 2025 didn't play out the way I thought it would. There was no pump to take profit on my altcoins. That's just the way it was. So I'm prepared to keep writing my positions because I do believe, whether I'm wrong about 2026, that it's going to come back and at some point. But I do think 2026, new Fed chair, you can see the Federal Reserve starting to pump in 40 billion, buying 40 billion of treasuries. The system, like Clear Value Tax, if you ever watch his videos, is saying that there's like drugs. You start doing drugs and you do like your first hit of some drug, and then that really powerful on you, and then eventually you need more and more of that drug. And the financial system is the same with liquidity. The liquidity is like oil in these systems. Banks need liquidity to, people borrowing money, this and that, and there's all this money moving around in liquidity, and it's like oil and water flowing around. And the Fed is there to print money and inject it into the system when that oil's drying up. And you can see with the national debt increasing, everything increasing, they need more and more liquidity. And cinnamon's still in the dumper. And so, yeah, that's just is what it is, man. But that's all I got. That's pretty much the main reasons. There's, probably something I'm missing there, but I do think that, I don't know if they're going to be big listings or medium listings, but there'll probably be a couple more listings next year and maybe some really good ones. HTX is another big notch in the belt and one step closer to, if you look at all the main top 15, exchanges, just, another domino falls and some, more tech getting rolled out. Caspa's already fast, 158 million transactions in a day, that stress test. And, if the macroeconomic conditions go our way and the Fed chair and the economy is trying to be pumped for the midterms and Bitcoin is going up, it's going to be a good year. So maybe we'll get the altcoin season. If you're long term, then you're not planning on selling. Depending on my meme coin play, maybe I'll take less profit, because whatever my thesis with, taking profit in 2025 never worked out, because just never went back to a price point that I wanted to sell at. And maybe it never, maybe if my meme coin play does pretty good, then maybe I'll just formulate that and take less profit. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about 2026. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Have a good day. Thanks for watching.